Shakand.
Almost everyone reaches a moment when life feels as though it's falling apart. You wake up each morning carrying questions that never seem to disappear. You wonder whether you've run out of time. You wonder whether you've wasted too many years. You watch the people around you continue moving forward while you feel as though you're standing completely still. Every failure feels larger than it truly is. Every rejection feels deeply personal. Every setback makes you question whether you'll ever become the person you once hoped to be. When life keeps striking you from every direction, it's easy to believe that being lost is simply who you are. It's easy to look at where you are today and think, this is my life now. But what if that is the greatest lie you've ever accepted? What if feeling broken is not the end of your story? What if this painful season is actually preparing you for a stronger version of yourself? The people who rise again after losing everything are not always the smartest. They are not always the most talented. They simply learn something that others never do. They stop allowing their circumstances to decide their future. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They begin asking, what can I become because of this? That single shift changes everything. Machiavelli understood one timeless truth that still applies today. Difficult seasons reveal who adapts and who gives up. Life doesn't stop testing people. It changes. It becomes unpredictable. Sometimes it takes away your confidence before it gives you wisdom. Sometimes it removes comfort before it creates strength. And sometimes it tears apart the version of you that could never become the person you're capable of being. Now, most people fight against those moments. The wiser ones learn from them. Now, let me make something clear before we go any further. This video is not about manipulating people. It is not about becoming ruthless or treating others without kindness. And it is not about pretending that pain doesn't exist. It is about rebuilding yourself through discipline when motivation disappears. It is about mastering your emotions instead of allowing your emotions to master you. It is about learning to think with clarity, even when your mind is filled with doubt. It is about making decisions guided by purpose rather than fear. Because when your foundation grows stronger, your future grows stronger with it. The 7 psychological principles you are about to discover are meant for anyone who feels lost, stuck, broken, or left behind in life. They are practical shifts in perspective that help you regain direction, rebuild confidence, and move ahead with intention. They teach you how to become the kind of person who continues moving forward even when life becomes difficult. Real transformation does not begin on the day your circumstances improve. It begins on the day your thinking changes. That is why we begin with your mind first. Because before you can rebuild your career, your relationships, your confidence, or your future, you must stop believing that your current situation defines who you are. Everything starts there. As we go through each lesson, don't just listen. Ask yourself where it applies to your own life, because knowledge changes nothing. Applied knowledge changes everything. Before we begin, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I rise again. Sometimes a simple decision spoken out loud becomes the first brick in rebuilding the life you thought was gone. Now let's begin with the first Machiavellian psychology trick. Trick 1. Stop identifying with your current situation. Your circumstances are temporary. Your identity is not. That may sound simple, but most people spend years living as if those two things are the same. Lose a job and suddenly they believe they're a failure. Men go through a breakup and they convince themselves they are impossible to love. Fall behind financially and they begin believing they will never recover. Notice what happens. The event lasts for a period of time. The label can remain for years. That is where the real damage begins. Machiavelli believed that clear judgment is one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. The moment your emotions begin defining reality, your judgment starts to weaken. Instead of seeing a challenge, you begin seeing a permanent sentence. Think about someone who gets lost while driving. They do not abandon the car because they missed a single turn. They simply choose a new direction. Yet when people lose their way in life, they often do the exact opposite. They miss one opportunity, make one mistake, or go through one painful season, and suddenly They convince themselves their entire future has been destroyed. That is not reality. It is a story they have begun telling themselves. The dangerous part is that your mind eventually believes the stories you repeat most often. And if you wake up every day saying, "I'm behind," you'll stop looking for opportunities. If you keep saying, "Nothing ever works out for me," you'll stop trying new things. If you keep introducing yourself to the world through your failures, you'll begin making decisions that match those failures. Without realizing it, you become loyal to a version of yourself that no longer deserves your loyalty. Here's something worth remembering. Your current situation is simply a location. It is not your identity. A traveler passing through a storm doesn't become the storm. Someone walking through failure doesn't become a failure. Life changes. People change. Yeah, you can change as well, but only if you stop confusing where you are with who you are. This is why some people rebuild themselves faster than others. It is not because they suffer less. It is because they refuse to build their identity around suffering. Instead of saying, "I'm broken," they say, "I'm rebuilding." Instead of saying, "I'm behind," they say, "I'm still moving." Those may sound like small shifts in language, but they create completely different futures because every action follows identity. If you believe you are powerless, you will hesitate. If you believe you are capable of growth, you will keep moving even when progress feels slow. So ask yourself one honest question. When you describe your life, are you describing facts or are you repeating labels? There is a huge difference. A fact says, "I lost my business." A label says, "I'm a loser." A fact says, "I'm struggling right now." A label says, "I'll never succeed." Facts can change. Labels become prisons. Stop living inside a prison you built with your own words. Instead, become the architect of your next chapter. Architects don't stare at broken walls all day. They study the damage, make a plan, and start building again. That's exactly what you must do. Your past can teach you. It should never control you. Every mistake you've made contains information. Every disappointment contains experience. Every setback reveals something that needs attention. Take the lesson, leave the identity. Because carrying wisdom makes clear's throat you stronger. Carrying shame only makes you heavier. The people who rise again are not people with perfect lives. They are people who stop introducing themselves through yesterday's pain. They understand that one difficult season cannot determine the rest of their story. Neither can one poor decision. Neither can one failure. And neither can one person's opinion. Starting today, notice every time you attach your identity to a temporary problem. Replace the label with the truth. You are not your disappointment. You are not your rejection. You are not your worst day. You are someone moving through a difficult chapter, and every chapter eventually comes to an end. The moment you separate your identity from your circumstances, something powerful begins to happen. You stop asking life for permission to move forward. You simply take the next step. That one decision becomes the foundation for everything that follows. Before we move to the next principle, I want you to leave this affirmation in the comments. I am rising. Because your future should never be limited by your present circumstances. Trick 2, accept destruction before reinvention. Every meaningful transformation begins with letting something old die. That idea makes most people uncomfortable. We naturally hold on to what feels familiar, even when it no longer helps us. We stay attached to habits that keep us stuck. We defend beliefs that limit our growth. We chase people who have already walked away. We protect routines that quietly steal our future. Then, one day, life tears those things away. At first, it feels like loss. Later, you realize it was making space. One of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn is this. Not everything that breaks your heart is breaking your life. Sometimes it's breaking your excuses. Sometimes it's breaking your pride. Sometimes it's breaking the version of you that could never become stronger. Machiavelli understood that survival belongs to those who adjust when reality changes. The person who refuses to change usually ends up fighting yesterday's battle while tomorrow passes by. Think about a tree during a violent storm. The old branches snap first, not because the tree is weak, because those branches can no longer carry new growth. People are no different. You cannot build a better life while carrying every habit that created the old one. You can't expect different results while protecting the same mindset. Growth always asks for a trade. To become someone new, something old has to leave. Maybe it's the habit of putting things off until tomorrow. Maybe it's constantly comparing yourself to everyone else. Maybe it's the need to be liked by people who don't even respect you. Or maybe it's the voice in your head that keeps saying, "This is just who I am." I'm not. That's simply who you've been. There is a difference. Your future isn't trapped by your past unless you keep dragging it with you. Now let's talk about something people rarely admit. Betrayal changes people. Rejection changes people. Failure changes people. Humiliation changes people. The question is not whether those experiences will leave a mark. They will. The real question is what kind of mark they will leave behind. Some people become bitter. Others become wiser. Some lose trust in everyone. Others learn how to recognize who truly deserves their trust. Some spend years reliving painful memories. Others use those same memories as guidance for making better decisions. The event may be exactly the same. The outcome is completely different. Imagine touching a hot stove. You do not spend the rest of your life feeling angry at the stove. You learn from it. You become more careful. That lesson protects you in the future. Pain works the same way. Its first job is to get your attention. Its second job is to teach you something. If you ignore that lesson, you will often repeat the same pattern with different people and different situations. That is why it is so important to stop asking one question: why did this happen to me? For a while, it may feel like the only question that matters, but it rarely helps move your life forward. A better question is this: what is this experience trying to teach me? That question shifts your focus. Instead of staying trapped in the past, you begin collecting wisdom for the future. Maybe that disappointment taught you to stop ignoring warning signs. Maybe that setback showed you the importance of patience. Maybe losing someone forced you to discover that your happiness cannot depend on another person's presence. Those lessons are valuable. Don't waste them. Many people try to erase painful chapters from their lives, but those chapters often become the reason they grow into stronger, calmer, and wiser individuals. Strength isn't built when everything goes your way. It's built when you keep moving after nothing goes your way. That's why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. Wisdom stays. Character stays. Those are the things suffering can give you if you allow it. This doesn't mean you should enjoy pain. No one should. And it means you refuse to allow pain to be meaningless. Every challenge should leave you with something valuable: more patience, better judgment, stronger boundaries, greater self-control, and a sharper awareness of what truly deserves your time. Once you gather those lessons, your difficult experiences stop feeling like heavy baggage, and they become tools. And tools build the future, so don't waste your energy trying to become the person you were before life became difficult. That version of you did not know what you know today. Set your sights higher. Become someone better because of everything you have lived through. The strongest comeback does not happen when life finally becomes easy. It happens when you stop resisting the changes that are necessary and begin rebuilding with everything you have learned. Only then does your past stop feeling like a prison. It becomes the foundation beneath your feet. Now, I want you to leave this affirmation in the comments. Pain builds strength. Trick 3. Rebuild your mind before your life. Your outer world follows your inner world. Most people try to change their lives by changing what they can see. A better job, a bigger paycheck, a different city, a new relationship. They believe that once those things change, they'll finally feel confident, focused, and at peace. But life rarely works that way. If your mind stays the same, you'll carry the same fears into every new opportunity. You'll repeat the same habits in different places. You'll make decisions based on old emotions instead of fresh thinking. The outside may look different. The inside stays exactly the same. That is why rebuilding your life always starts with rebuilding your mind. Machiavelli understood that the greatest advantage is not physical strength. It is not luck. It is not even talent. It is the ability to think clearly while everyone else is controlled by emotion. A calm mind notices what a restless mind overlooks. It sees opportunities where others see only problems. It pauses while others panic. And that pause often becomes the difference between making a wise decision and making one you will later regret. Think about how many decisions people make simply because of how they feel in the moment. They quit because they feel discouraged. They argue because they feel offended. They spend money because they feel empty. They give up because they feel overwhelmed. Feelings are real, but they are not always reliable guides. If you allow every emotion to control your actions, your life will constantly be pulled in different directions. One difficult morning will convince you to abandon a solid plan. One negative comment will make you question your progress. One disappointing result will tempt you to stop trying altogether. That isn't discipline. That's emotional drift. Strong people don't eliminate emotions. They simply refuse to hand over the steering wheel. When frustration shows up, they slow down instead of reacting. When anger appears, they give themselves time before speaking. When fear whispers that it's safer to stay where they are, they ask whether that fear is protecting them or limiting them. That simple habit creates better decisions. Another skill that changes everything is learning where your attention goes. Your attention is one of the greatest assets you possess. Every single day, countless things compete for it. Breaking news, endless scrolling, constant notifications, arguments that have nothing to do with your life. The opinions of strangers. Hours disappear before you even realize it. Then people wonder why they feel mentally exhausted. It is because their attention has been pulled in 100 different directions. A scattered mind struggles to create a focused life. Protecting your attention is every bit as important as protecting your time. Start paying close attention to what fills your mind each day. Ask yourself, does this information help me grow? Does this conversation improve the way I think? Does this habit move me closer to the person I want to become? If the answer is no, perhaps it doesn't deserve so much space in your life. Your thoughts also follow your daily routines. You do not build mental strength by waiting for the perfect mood. You build it through small actions, repeated again and again. Reading instead of mindless scrolling, keeping the promises you make to yourself. Finishing what you begin, taking a walk. When your mind feels crowded, sitting quietly for a few moments before reacting to a stressful situation. None of these actions seem dramatic, but together they reshape the way you think. And once your thinking changes, your choices begin to change. Remember, your future is built one decision at a time. Every thoughtful choice strengthens your confidence. Every impulsive choice weakens it. Confidence doesn't grow because you tell yourself positive words in the mirror. It grows because you repeatedly prove to yourself that you can be trusted. You say you'll wake up early, you do it. You promise to finish an important task, you finish it. You decide not to react emotionally. You keep your composure. Little by little, your mind begins believing something powerful. I can depend on myself. That belief becomes your foundation. Because when life becomes uncertain again, and it will, you won't rely on motivation to carry you forward. You'll rely on the habits you've built. You'll rely on the discipline you've earned. You'll rely on the steady mind you've trained. A strong life is never built by accident. It is built by someone who learns to master their own thinking before trying to master anything else. When your mind becomes your greatest ally, instead of your biggest obstacle, you stop feeling controlled by every challenge that comes your way. You begin responding with patience instead of panic, with clarity, instead of confusion, and with purpose instead of impulse. And that is where true rebuilding begins. Leave this affirmation in the comments. My mind leads because the quality of your life will never rise above the quality of your thinking. Trick 4. Protect the environment that shapes you. Your surroundings either strengthen your future or quietly weaken it. Most people believe success depends only on willpower. Nah, they tell themselves, if I were more disciplined, everything would change. But discipline does not exist on its own. Every single day, your environment is pulling you in a direction whether you notice it or not. The people you spend time with, the conversations you listen to, the content you consume, the habits you repeat, even the place where you wake up every morning. Together, they shape the person you're becoming. Machiavelli understood that no one makes decisions in a vacuum. Every choice is influenced by what surrounds them. If your environment constantly feeds distraction, negativity, and confusion, staying focused becomes an uphill battle. Imagine trying to grow a healthy plant. You can buy the best seeds. You can water it every day. But if you leave it in poor soil with almost no sunlight, it will never reach its full potential. The problem isn't always the seed. Sometimes it's where the seed has been planted. The same is true for people. Many believe something is wrong with them, and when in reality, they're spending every day inside an environment that works against their growth. And take a moment and think about the voices you hear most often. Do they encourage responsibility, or do they always complain? Do they inspire progress, or do they constantly make excuses? Attitudes spread faster than most people realize. Spend enough time around people who blame everyone else, and you'll slowly start doing the same. Stay around people who constantly settle for less, and your own standards will begin to decline, not because you are weak, but because human beings naturally absorb the atmosphere around them. That is why protecting your environment is not optional, it is necessary. This does not mean you must remove everyone from your life. It means becoming more intentional about who is given your time, energy, and attention. Some relationships bring peace. Others create pressure. Some conversations leave you feeling stronger. Others leave you mentally drained for the rest of the day. Pay attention to that difference. Your energy is limited. Do not spend it where it is constantly being depleted. The same principle applies to your digital environment. Many people reach for their phones before they even get out of bed. Within minutes, their minds are filled with breaking news, endless opinions, arguments, and comparisons. Before they have even started living their own day, they are already living inside someone else's. Hours later, they wonder why they cannot focus. Your mind was never designed to carry that much unnecessary noise. You don't have to know everything happening in the world every minute. You don't have to respond to every message immediately. You don't have to win every debate. Silence is often more valuable than constant stimulation. Creating a healthier environment also means building routines that support the person you're trying to become. Simple habits have more power than dramatic changes. A clean workspace reduces distractions. A consistent morning routine creates stability. Keeping a notebook nearby encourages reflection instead of impulsive reactions. Taking regular walks gives your mind room to breathe. These aren't complicated strategies. They're quiet decisions that slowly reshape your daily life. Another part of protecting your environment is learning to guard your peace. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every argument deserves your attention. Not every opinion deserves a response. Some people mistake constant availability for kindness, but always being available often leaves you with nothing left for yourself. There is wisdom in knowing when to walk away. There is strength in protecting your focus. The more intentionally you choose what is allowed into your life, the easier it becomes to stay aligned with your goals. Eventually, something remarkable begins to happen. Good decisions stop feeling difficult. They begin to feel natural. Why? Because your environment finally supports the life you are trying to build, instead of working against it. Success becomes much easier to sustain when your surroundings encourage the right behaviors. You no longer have to rely on endless motivation. Your daily life begins working in your favor. That is one of the smartest changes you can make. Stop asking whether you are strong enough to resist every distraction. Instead, ask whether you can remove some of those distractions before they ever reach you. That is a far better strategy because the strongest people are not the ones who spend their lives constantly fighting temptation. They're the ones who build a life where temptation has less control over them in the first place. Protect your space, protect your attention, protect your peace. The environment you create today will quietly shape the person you become tomorrow. Before we move to the next trick, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I protect my peace because every great comeback begins by choosing an environment that helps you grow instead of one that keeps you stuck. Trick 5. Master the power of patience. Real progress is usually invisible before it becomes obvious. That truth frustrates a lot of people. We live in a world that celebrates quick results. Every day you are surrounded by stories of overnight success, instant wealth, and dramatic transformations. You see someone announcing a promotion. Someone else purchases a new house. Another person shares a major accomplishment. After a while, it becomes easy to believe that everyone is moving ahead faster than you. Then a dangerous habit begins. You stop measuring yourself against your own progress. Instead, you begin measuring yourself against everyone else's highlight reel. Machiavelli understood that timing is just as important as action. A wise person does not rush simply because everyone else is running. They know that forcing the wrong move often creates far greater problems than waiting for the right opportunity. Many people mistake patience for doing nothing. They are not the same. Doing nothing is passive. Patience is active. Patience means continuing the work even when the reward has not yet appeared. It means showing up when no one is applauding. It means trusting the process without needing daily proof that it is working. Then think about learning a new skill. The first few weeks often feel awkward. Your progress seems painfully slow. You make mistakes. You question yourself. Sometimes it even feels like you're getting nowhere. But something important is happening beneath the surface. Your mind is adjusting. Your habits are changing. Your confidence is growing little by little. The improvement isn't obvious because it's happening one small step at a time. Then one day, something clicks. The task that once felt impossible suddenly feels natural. People notice your improvement. What they don't see are the quiet days that made it possible. That is how real growth works. It develops quietly long before anyone can see it. This is exactly why comparison is so dangerous. You rarely know the complete story behind another person's success. You see the finished outcome. You do not see the years of practice. You do not see the failures they never chose to share. You do not see the mornings when they wanted to give up. Comparing your beginning to someone else's breakthrough will always leave you discouraged. Your timeline belongs to you. Honor it. Some trees grow quickly. Others take years before they become strong enough to survive powerful storms. The slower growth often creates deeper roots. Life works the same way. If your foundation is being built with care, do not mistake slow progress for the failure. A rushed life often produces fragile results. Consistent effort creates lasting ones. Another mistake many people make is chasing recognition too early. They want everyone to notice their progress immediately. They seek validation before they have finished the work. But public attention is unreliable. Some people will support you, others won't. If your motivation depends on praise, you'll lose momentum the moment that praise disappears. Build for yourself first. Let your actions become your evidence. There is something powerful about making progress that nobody sees. You wake up earlier. You become more disciplined. You keep your promises. You improve your health. You strengthen your mindset. No announcements, no applause, just quiet, consistent. Those invisible victories eventually create visible results. The people around you may suddenly say, "You changed." What they don't realize is that the change began months before they noticed. Patience also builds emotional control. When things fail to happen as quickly as you expected, frustration tries to convince you that your effort is pointless. Do not believe that voice. Success rarely moves in a straight line. Some weeks feel productive, while others feel slow. At times, it may even seem as though you are standing still. That does not mean you have stopped growing. Sometimes progress is happening in ways you cannot measure yet. Keep moving forward. One good decision repeated every day will always outperform one perfect day, followed by weeks of inconsistency. Never underestimate the power of small actions. Reading a few pages each day, saving a little money every week, improving one habit at a time, and learning one new lesson from every setback. None of these choices seem extraordinary on their own, but over time they build an extraordinary life. Remember this whenever you feel tempted to give up. The people who succeed are not always the fastest. More often, they are the ones who refuse to quit after everyone else has become impatient. Stay committed to the process. Trust the work you're doing today, even if nobody else can see the results yet. Because one morning, you'll look back and realize the person you wanted to become was being built during the days you thought nothing was happening. That is the quiet strength of patience. It doesn't demand attention. Besides, it simply keeps moving forward until the results speak for themselves. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I trust the process because every meaningful achievement is built by those who keep going long after excitement fades. Trick 6. Reclaim your self-respect. People often treat you according to the standards you set for yourself. That may not always seem fair, but it is often true. If you constantly neglect your own needs, people begin to expect it. If you never speak up when something feels wrong, others assume you will always remain silent. If you continue accepting less than you deserve, eventually, that becomes the new standard. This does not happen overnight. It happens through one small decision after another. Machiavelli understood that respect begins long before anyone else gives it to you. It starts with the way you carry yourself, the choices you make, and the boundaries you are willing to protect. Before the world decides how to treat you, you've already shown it what you are willing to accept. Many people spend years chasing approval. They change their opinions to match the room. They apologize, even when they have done nothing wrong. They say yes because they fear that saying no will disappoint someone. At first, it feels like kindness, but over time, it becomes a habit of abandoning yourself. The problem with living for approval is that it never truly ends. No matter how much you give, someone will always want more. No matter how hard you try, someone will still misunderstand you. No matter how carefully you act, someone will still criticize your choices. If your peace depends on everyone liking you, you'll never experience real peace because that goal is impossible. The strongest people understand something different. They would rather be respected than constantly approved. Those are not the same thing. Approval comes from pleasing people. Respect comes from standing by your values. Sometimes those two things happen together. Often they don't. This is where boundaries become important. A boundary isn't a wall built to keep everyone out. It is a line that protects what matters most: your time, your energy, your values, and your emotional well-being. Without boundaries, every demand becomes your responsibility. Every problem becomes yours to solve. Every expectation becomes another burden on your shoulders. Eventually, you become exhausted without fully understanding why. Learning to say no changes everything. For many people, that one word feels uncomfortable. They worry about appearing rude. They fear disappointing others. They imagine losing important relationships. But saying no to something unhealthy is often the same as saying yes to your future. Every time you protect your priorities, you strengthen your self-respect. Now, remember this. Not every opportunity deserves your attention. Not every request deserves your agreement. Not every relationship deserves unlimited access to your life. Choose wisely. Another way to rebuild your self-respect is by keeping the promises you make to yourself. People often place all their attention on the promises they make to others. Those matter. But the promises you make to yourself matter just as much. When you tell yourself you'll wake up early, do it. When you decide to improve your health, stay committed. When you promise yourself you'll stop returning to habits that hurt you, honor that decision. Each time you follow through, you send yourself an important message. My word has value. That message builds quiet confidence. The opposite is also true. Every time you repeatedly ignore your own commitments, your trust in yourself becomes weaker. Soon, you begin doubting your ability to change. Don't let that happen. Become someone who believes their own promises. Confidence grows through action, not imagination. It grows when your behavior matches your intentions. There's another habit that quietly destroys self-respect. Constant comparison. Looking at someone else's success and deciding your own life isn't enough. Looking at another person's appearance and criticizing your own. Looking at another person's achievements and forgetting everything you've already overcome. Comparison steals gratitude. It also steals perspective. There will always be someone ahead of you. There will always be someone behind you. Neither person should determine your worth. Your value isn't measured by someone else's progress. It's measured by the character you build every single day. Respect yourself enough to celebrate your own growth, even if it's small, even if nobody notices, even if the only person who sees it is you. That still matters because self-respect is built in private before it ever becomes visible in public. When you value yourself, your decisions become clearer. You stop chasing people who only call when they need something. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking your dreams to make other people comfortable. Instead, you stand taller, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. You know who you are. You know what you stand for, and you no longer need constant permission to live according to your own principles. That is real strength, not the need to prove yourself, but the ability to remain true to yourself. Once you reclaim your self-respect, you stop living from a place of fear. You stop asking, will they accept me? Instead, you begin asking a far better question. Does this choice honor the person I'm becoming? That single question has the power to transform every decision you make from this point forward. Before we move to the final trick, I want you to leave this affirmation in the comments. I choose respect. Because the moment you begin valuing yourself, the quality of your life begins rising with you. Trick 7. Build a vision stronger than your past. A clear future gives meaning to today's struggles. Without direction, even small problems feel overwhelming. With direction, even the hardest seasons become easier to endure. That's the difference a vision makes. Many people don't stay stuck because they lack talent. They stay stuck because they don't know where they're going. They wake up. They react to whatever the day brings. They scroll through their phones. They handle one distraction after another. Before they know it, another week has passed, then another month, then another year. Nothing dramatic happened, but nothing meaningful happened either. Life rarely falls apart all at once. More often, it slowly drifts away from the future you once imagined. Machiavelli understood that every strategic move begins with knowing the destination. A person without a clear direction doesn't make intentional choices. They simply react to whatever appears in front of them. When every decision is driven by the present moment, the future is left to chance. Don't leave your future to chance. Decide where you want your life to go, not where your family expects you to go, not where social media tells you to go, not where other people believe you belong. Ask yourself one honest question. 5 years from now, what kind of person do you want to become? Notice that the question is not about what you want to own. It is about who you want to be. Do you want to become calm under pressure? Do you want to become dependable? Do you want to become disciplined enough to finish what you begin? Do you want to become someone who no longer lives in fear of failure? Those answers matter far more than any job title, because who you become determines what you eventually build. Once your vision becomes clear, your daily decisions begin to change. Suddenly, every choice has a purpose. You stop asking, what do I feel like doing today? Instead, you ask, does this move me closer to the life I'm creating? That single question becomes a powerful filter. Some invitations lose their appeal. Some habits become easier to leave behind. Some distractions no longer seem worth your time. Not because someone forced you to change, Because your vision became stronger than your temptations. That's one of the greatest advantages you can develop. A person with a meaningful purpose doesn't need endless reminders to stay focused. Their future keeps calling them forward. This doesn't mean you'll never feel discouraged. You will. There will be mornings when your energy feels low. There will be days when progress seems invisible. There will be moments when quitting feels easier than continuing. During those moments, your vision becomes your anchor. Feelings change. Means purpose remains. Think about a ship crossing a vast ocean. Storms will come. Powerful waves will push it off course. Strong winds will test its strength. But as long as the captain knows where the ship is going, temporary setbacks don't become permanent detours. Your vision works the same way. It keeps bringing you back to the direction you have chosen. That does not mean every day must be perfect. It means every day should continue pointing in the same direction. Never underestimate the value of small, consistent actions. Reading 10 pages, practicing a skill, saving a little money, improving one habit, making one better decision than you made yesterday. And none of those actions seem life-changing on their own, but together, they shape your future. Great lives are not built in one extraordinary moment. They are built through ordinary choices repeated with extraordinary consistency. Another mistake many people make is waiting until they feel completely ready. That day rarely arrives. Clarity often comes after movement, not before it. Take the first step. Adjust as you move forward. Every mile you travel teaches you something the starting line never could. Remember, a vision is not a fantasy. It is a commitment. It is a promise you make to your future self. A promise that you will continue growing even when the journey becomes uncomfortable. A promise that you will not allow temporary setbacks to erase your long-term goals. A promise that you will keep moving even if your pace is slower than you hoped. One day, you will look back on this chapter of your life. The pain, the uncertainty, the setbacks, the moments when you believed you were falling behind. And you will realize they were never signs that your story was coming to an end. And they were the moments that forced you to build a future with greater intention. That's why your past should never become the loudest voice in your life. Your vision should. Because when your future becomes more compelling than your history, your decisions begin to reflect the person you're determined to become, not the person you used to be. That is how real transformation happens. One clear vision, one intentional choice, one meaningful day at a time. Before we finish this journey, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My future leads. Because the strongest people aren't controlled by where they've been, they are guided by where they're determined to go. If you've stayed with me until this point, you've probably realized something important. Feeling lost doesn't mean your life is over. More often than not, it means you're standing at the beginning of a new chapter. Today we learned 7 powerful shifts that can change the direction of your life. You learned why your current situation should never become your identity. You discovered that growth often begins after something old falls apart. You saw why a disciplined mind creates a stronger future. You learned that your environment quietly shapes your choices every single day. You discovered that patience is not weakness, it's quiet strength. You saw why self-respect begins with the standards you set for yourself. And finally, you learned that a clear vision gives every difficult day a reason to keep moving forward. None of these ideas will change your life on their own. Only action can do that. Real rebuilding doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens through the small decisions you make after this video ends. One better choice, one healthier habit, one promise you keep, then another and another. Months from now, those small decisions can build a life that feels completely different from the one you are living today. So do not wait until you feel completely confident. Do not wait until everything is perfect. Start where you are. Use what you have. Take the next step. Your speed matters far less than your willingness to keep moving forward. One day, you will look back and realize that the moment you believed everything was falling apart was actually the moment everything began coming together. If this video gave you a new way of thinking, take a moment to hit the like button. It helps this message reach people who may need it just as much as you did. Share this video with someone who feels lost, broken, or stuck. You never know how a single conversation can change someone's direction. And if you enjoy content about psychology, strategy, human behavior, and timeless lessons from great thinkers, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next video. Until next time, keep your mind clear, protect your peace, stay patient, and never let one difficult chapter convince you that your story has come to an end, because the strongest comeback always begins with one decision: the decision to rise again